The CEO of Sony Films, Tom Rothman, speaks. We have a couple clips here. What he addresses. This is really interesting because, Sony, they own Superman. Excuse me, Spider-Man.
Okay.
We're talking Superman. So I thought that. But he had some things to say, and I've got some clips lined up here. It's from a podcast called The Town with Matt Maloney. Perhaps you've heard of it.
I believe I have.
Yeah, let me play the first clip here, and then we have two short clips. I don't know where they end, but let's sit here and we'll play the first one, and we'll see what. Here we go. The Town.
Where are we in the Spider-Man franchise? Not at the animated Spider-Verse. Is the larger Spider-Verse dead? Are you gonna go back to those at some point?
Yes,
you will.
Yes.
But it'll be a fresh reboot.
Yes,
new people. Okay.
Yes.
And how is the partnership with Marvel going?
It's great
because that was a big moment. It was sort of a tail between the legs moment to have to go to Disney and say, "Listen,
I think it was
we kind of ran this into the ground. We need you to bring."
Speaking of that, putting that question that way, we have a character. It's called Mr. Negativity. It would be really good for him. You should come and audition.
Studios don't typically say, "Here's our #1 franchise. Let's bring in another studio to partner on it."
I can't take much credit for it. It was at the very beginning of my tenure and the tail of end of Amy's tenure, but I think it was an extremely smart and mature decision by Michael Linton and Amy Pascal, who are excellent executives, first rate. But the part that I quarrel with, run into the ground, no. It's an $800 million movie. That's some ground. I think, again, this was a question of opportunity because, yes, first of all, Marvel's great. Kevin Feige's a genius, and I can talk about that in a second. But it wasn't just bringing Marvel in to produce for us. It was actually we were able to introduce the new Spider-Man with Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man.
Connected to the narrative.
Yeah. So it had big upside for us, and it's been one of the great deals for both companies ever. A true win-win deal to the point where the third one just did, and pisses me off that I have to say this, that it did $1.9 billion. You'd say $1.9 billion? What's the matter with 2? Well, it didn't get into China. So otherwise, but in my mind, it's over 2 because I know what we would have done in China. They just, small thing. They said, no problem. Just cut out the Statue of Liberty, which is where the climax.
That was the request?
That was the request.
Wow.
And I said, yeah, well.
That's like the last 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, there was that. And also, I really didn't look forward to sitting in air in front of Congress, telling them why I cut the Statue of Liberty out at the request of the Chinese Communist Party. So it's been it's been a great partnership. And I have to say, it's because they've been great partners. I know Kevin.
I'm going to make a prediction that there's no Statue of Liberty in the new Spider-Man.
Let me think about that. Actually, coincidentally, that's true.
Wow. China sucks.
Total coincidence.
Oh my God. All right. Hey, we've got another clip here. That's really interesting, kind of what they have to deal with on international. I'm glad he didn't pander to China and Cave.
Yeah. China sucks. The other thing is, I mean, I wish I could do an interview like this where I could tell the CEO of Sony and tell him that he ran Spider-Man into the ground. It's not that, and that, he would take that question honestly. These are the kind of interviews I really like because it's just the fact that you can ask the question you want to ask, whether you're right or you're wrong. He did it. He was wrong, and the CEO of Sony just continued on with it. Well, same with Josh Horowitz. I mean, yeah. Go ahead.
No, I know we talk like, these studio executives evil. They're also people, and they have to juggle so many things. I think the TV show, I don't know if you ever saw the Studio with Seth Rogen on Apple TV. It's a phenomenal series. I mean, it makes light of everything the studios do, pandering, the dumb decisions they make. It's very much for cinephiles. There's a whole episode that is done in one shot, and that episode is called The Oneer. When you do one shot, and it's called a oneer, you just do it in one shot, The Oneer. And that's a great, so it really is for true cinephiles. There's even a reference to the movie The Player, one of my all-time favorite movies by Robert Altman. You should see segment. It. It's so good. Like, God, yeah, the opening scene of The Player is a oneer, which is done on a studio lot where I did a TV show once. But yeah, we've got another clip I want to play, but Alan, you were about to say.
No, I was just expounding on what I just said.
Let's get this second clip.
What's the crisis in movies now? It's not the amount of movies. It's not the big grossing movies. Spider-Man's going to do great.
It's the middle ground.
It's originality. The crisis is originality. The crisis is, where is the next franchise coming from? Because original movies don't have a built-in fan base. And we're getting to a place that without cultural urgency, you got to have cultural urgency to get over the bar. Why? Why is Timothée Chalamet such a movie star? Well, because A, he's great. He's a great actor. My daughter's a theater producer, put him in his first play. There you go, Elizabeth, gave you a plug. He's a great actor. He's never been anything less than great. And he's a fantastic cultural sales. He's a guy who understands, he creates urgency, cultural urgency.
But it doesn't seem like your fellow studios share your passion for originality.
Because my fellow studios we get the shit beat out of ourselves all the time when you try for originality. But you got to keep trying. And we do try. But
I read today you greenlit a Charlie's Angels movie.
No.
Or you're developing.
Deep development. That, and there's talk about originality.
But if you look at the slate, and no shame, but it's pre-branded stuff. You'll do a Garfield movie.
Your biggest movies of the year will probably be what? Spider-Man, Jumanji, and
because I have shareholders and I have fiduciary obligations and I have 6,000 employees whose bonus.
You're basically the guy in the studio. You want to do certain movies and you want to also keep your job.
No, I want to be clear about that because I was widely misquoted on that.
Oh, you were?
Widely. So I get a chance to correct the record now because they took half of my quote from that.
Please.
I said very clearly on every episode of the studio, so please use this first part of the quote. There is a brilliantly blinding truth in every episode. And there is. And then I said, but the rest of it is horseshit. And what I should have said was the rest of it is silly because they only used the cuss word. Look, I think it's a brilliant show. And I think the satire is actually genius. But some of the most devoted, film-loving, smart people I've known in 35 years in Hollywood are studio executives. And not all of them, but most of them are in it for the same reason I am.
It's funny that before I showed this clip, I hadn't seen this clip before. He talks about The Studio, which is a great show. I strongly recommend it, Alan. You've got to see it.
Yes.
Final thoughts on this, and then we'll go to comments.
Yeah, I mean, of all the studios I'd like to visit, with screenings, Sony is probably the best one. Having said that, I get it. This idea of originality, he has to make money, and so he has to re-employ the cash cows. But if you look at Sony classics, they're hardly retreads. Those are originals, and those tend to be the better ones. And I think I don't know what Sony is doing, but they really don't push their classic series. And I don't mean classic films. It's these indie films that they greenlight and they call them Sony classics.
Sony Pictures Classics is the brand, and we often review their films.
Yeah, and they're the most interesting. They're not all winners. They're kind of like Focus Features or Lionsgate, but and they do have a faith brand coming out of it as well. So. Sony, I guess I'm becoming more of a fan of Sony after hearing all this. And I love the playful combativeness that he's allowing in this interview.